Raumdeuter, one of the most unused roles in Football Manager. You might not have even ever used it, you might not have heard of it. Well, today, I'm going to make a tactic which broke the match engine using 2 Raumdeuters, and trust me, they absolutely cook, and it made me realise I need to start using more unique roles, because we done one on the Enganche the other week, now the Raumdeuter. Any other tactics you want to see feature in a certain role, comment below right now, and while you're there, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Let's go through and see the results first, because they shocked me. So we'll get the powerhouse out the way. It is going to be PSG, obviously over in the French league. We put on an immaculate display. 32 wins and just the 2 draws with 151 goal difference. Mbappe, 36 goals. Kolo Mani, 35. And Ousmane Dembele coming in with 28. The average rating, we're going to have 3 plays in there as well. And also the same story is being told for the most assists. Now, what I will say, also, defensively, we were very, very strong because we did go down an approach of having, obviously, the Raumdeuter can only be played on attack. So the wingbacks didn't really have that much of an attacking influence. I made this tactic specifically about the Raumdeuter. So the defense was really, really rock solid because they were on defensive duties, and it paid off. I mean, we dominated every stat line apart from the possession where we were 2nd and pass completion down in 6th. But other than that, we had a really strong season purely off the stat line alone. And going into the data hub, 4.74 goals a game, 0.29 conceded, a 25.79 shot per game ratio, which is really high. Pass completion, really high, 89%, and a very strong tackle win ratio. So consistency was not an issue, goals were not an issue, defense was not an issue, pass completion not an issue anywhere. So a really strong tactic, and going to the competitions, we actually do the quadruple. The Champions League would be Arsenal, which is also a team we were, as you can see, so that's trophy number 2. The French Cup, we're going to smash Marseille 5-0. And the Trophy de Champion, we're going to win 4-0 against Toulouse. So a very, very, very strong set of stats here. Trophies, individual stats, it's a W tactic. I want you to look at this because this is a perfect example of what you can actually expect with a tactic like this against a full-strength Madrid team. Sometimes in the game this happens, you turn up and the opposition, whatever difficulty they are, whatever strengths they've got, they can't match her. And this is a game we actually won 8-0. Vitinha into Dembele, and I will say, the Raumdeuter really surprised me, basically playing on wide areas, and it was really good. They're very aggressive, they linked up the play really well, and I think one of the reasons why people don't use them as much as what, probably I'm going to say it, as what people should, is because not every player is the most comfortable in that role. But don't forget, you can train players. There are players out there that can play there, and to be honest, we simply loaded it in with 4 random teams, and the wingers, they weren't playing at full capacity compared to if they were an inverted winger or inside forward, but they played with such elegance and prowess, and they were really good players. And I will say, genuinely, you need to start using this role more. The Raumdeuter, the Enganche, the Trek, there's so many different roles which I just feel are in the game, and essentially, without being blunt, they're pointless because no one uses them. I'm trying to change it. Now over to one of the biggest teams in London, that is going to be Arsenal. And we do win the Premier League, something they've failed to do over the last few years. Hopefully they get it done for the Arsenal fans that are watching though. We enjoyed a fantastic season. I will say Saka and Martinelli thrived in the Raumdeuter roles, and Jesus thrived off them thriving as well. The top goal scorer beating Erling Haaland and Bukayo Saka in 3rd place. 3 players when it comes to the average rating, and also 3 players when it comes to the most assists. Now I will say the same story's being told when it comes to the defensive side, because they were so defensively minded because I didn't allow them to really progress and start making attacks. The fewest conceded, the most clean sheets, the most dribbles, possession, 3rd place, I'll take that behind City and Liverpool. Pass completion, 4th place, but 89%, still very, very strong. A good amount of shots, very few shots against us, good amount of goals being scored, and a good amount of points as well. A really, really strong season, and one that I personally can't really complain about sat here looking at these results. Now going over to the data hub, it's going to be 3.58 goals per game, 0.32 conceded, so not as good as PSG, but still a very good set of stats. A good amount of shots per game, a good pass completion, and a tidy tackle win ratio. It's incredibly good for a team I think predicted, what is it, 3rd or 4th in this game, when they do it obviously behind City and Liverpool inside of this. It's a really, really strong season, and of course we are going to go out and win other trophies. Runners up in the Champions League, the FA Cup, unfortunately Manchester United, who are down in 10th by the way, do knock us out. The Carabao Cup we are going to win against Tottenham, there you go. Big one for the Arsenal fans. And also the Community Shield, we are going to beat Man City 2-0. So we go toe-to-toe with anyone. we've actually won a treble technically. It's a very strong season. We'll take it. And we displayed no fear when playing, you know, when we played one of the other big teams in London, in Chelsea. Zero fear factor at all. A 6-0 win at home with 5 of the goals coming past the 54th minute. And Thomas Partey having a party into the bottom right-hand corner there. With Tomiyasu into Odegaard, back into Tomiyasu, into Saka, cutting inside, and the Raumdeuter doing Raumdeuter things. We love to see it again. Saka into Odegaard, back into Saka, into Martinelli. That is both of the Raumdeuters being featured. Zinchenko, Havertz, Martinelli, back inside into Kai Havertz, who... I don't even want to explain what just happened there. That's the match engine for you. Havertz into Odegaard, into Jesus, who he loved it here. He did. Then take a team predicted 11th and turn them into Bundesliga champions. Yes, it was very close. Was it dominant? I'm not going to lie. You can see the stats yourself. 23 wins, 6 draws and 5 losses. But we still got the job done, and that's all that matters, to be honest with you. We've got a player when it comes... There's actually 3 players joint top goal scorer. We've got 1st and 3rd in the average rating. Clean sheets, again, we are so defensively solid because the back line is so... I'll say it, quite negative in terms of attacking, very defensively minded, and that is where we actually got the edge over everyone here, because as you can see, when it comes to sort of like the goals being scored, it was very close with RB Leipzig. Bayern having a bit of a weak season, but, you know, Leipzig definitely having a great season to make up for Bayern's presence, or lack of presence, should I say. The data hub is going to look like this, so again, not as many goals, 2.24, but still a rock-solid defensive display, a great amount of shots per game, a really strong pass completion, and a very good tackle-win ratio. And if I go over to the competitions, the other trophy would have been a Pockle, but unfortunately Stuttgart a little bit too strong on the day. And lastly, 23rd place Harrogate Town, probably one of the toughest tests I've done in some time, and I did use the defensive tactic for the entire season to clarify that right early and open with you guys, because you can't use the other two. You can, but you concede too many goals. The defensive tactic suits lower league football down to an absolute T, which is why I always say, if you were downloading my tactics or anyone else's tactics, if there is more than one variant, you need all 3, because there's a reason why there's 3. It's not just for fun, and that's exactly why we use it with this team, because they needed the extra defense. They really, really did. The stat lines aren't going to be too flattering. I mean, if we go and have a little look right now, actually, forget it. They are going to be flattering. I was not expecting that. 105 goals, most shots, fewer shots against, best pass completion, most possession, most tackles, most dribbles, and the fewest conceded. Forget what I said. It's an absolute dominant display. We love to see it. The data hub is going to be 2.28 goals per game, 0.74, over 15 shots a game, a great pass completion, and a very good tackle win ratio. I will say, apart from the massive overachievement in the league, we didn't win another trophy, but I've taken a team pretty much all the way down here and turned them all the way up here into champions. So that is why you love the Raumdeuter. They get the job done. Let's go over and actually break down this magnificent tactic. I do want to say this is now the perfect time to leave a like on the video and subscribe, only if you're enjoying yourselves. And also, if you do enjoy rebuilds, you can come over to my second channel, I'll put it above here, where we post a rebuild once every 2 to 3 days, and I'm getting through all the requests right now, but it's the perfect time to see your club featured, because there's still not that many requests. So if you want to see your team get a little cheeky rebuild from me using one of my tactics, come on over and get involved. But let's go through and break down the Raumdeuter tactic. So then, over to the tactic. Let's go through and talk about it. So it is going to be based off the Gegenpress, and it is initially going to be off that 4-3-3. So let's go and load that in. I do want to quickly say, if you want to get all 3 tactics today, you want them on mobile, you want them on console, you want my rebuild files, the rebuild tactics, you want everything early, you want priority in the tactic and the rebuild requests, you want one-on-one tactical help, access to this month's giveaway, which is £375 split between 5 people via PayPal, key part in that. Do come over and join the Patreon and join over 4,668 people. We're pushing for 5k members. That's 5,000 people, a massive community, the biggest in the FM scene. So come over, you do not want to miss out another day. Let's go and build this tactic. So we're going to load in this 4-3-3. Again, the Gegenpress, obviously on the positive mentality. Let's go through and talk about some of these player roles. So we are going to start off with a sweeper keeper who is simply going to be set to defend. Again, I won't say it time in, time out. I rarely add instructions onto goalkeepers because it's very rarely needed. Going over to the back line, and as I said, it is going to be quite a composed back line. 2 wing backs who are both going to be simply on defend. We'll talk about those very shortly. Both of the ball playing defenders are going to remain simply on the default again, and with these wing backs, they are going to be told to simply sit narrow, tackle harder, and also mark tighter. And that is going to be exactly the same for this side as well. Now, what this creates is a very compact back four that are very hard to score goals against, as you saw, and just works really, really well. And because of them Raumdeuters up the pitch being on attack, I really wanted to have this tactic all about them. It's a Raumdeuter speciality. I don't want wingbacks getting involved as well. I want them, the Raumdeuters, to really be the presence of the team. So the wingbacks take a bit of a seat back today in a default tactic, and that is why they are like this. Now, going over to the midfield, we are going to instantly go over DLP, who is going to be set to support. Now, on him, the only one instruction I'm going to have is simply tackle harder. You could use several roles in this position if you don't really feel like you want to use a DLP. You could use a DM, you could use a ball winner midfield player, an anchor. You could use a lot of players, but the DLP for me worked really well because he found the forward runs of the Raumdeuter and the rest of the midfield, and of course, the striker. But going over to the midfield, the next position is going to be a box-to-box. One of my favourite things to do with any 4-3-3 is to introduce a box-to-box into the team, because it's a perfect balance of attack and also literally getting further forwards, as we're going to tell him to do in this tactic. Now, going next to him is not going to be a Mazzala, not going to be an advanced playmaker. It's going to be the better one of the two for this tactic, an attacking midfield player on attack with some instructions. Those are going to consist of roam and also move into the channels. Now, this midfield, they all offer something very different, and it all comes together like a perfect triangle. A perfect triangle. It works so well in this system. We can afford to have a couple of players that are somewhat attacking, being the box-to-box, and definitely this player here, because our back line is so defensive. Now, we'll go over the striker first because that's nice and simple. That is the advanced forward on the attack, which worked really well with the Raumdeuters. And as you guessed it, we are going to have one Raumdeuter. Of course, we're not going to have two Raumdeuters on the left and the right-hand side. And they are going to have some instructions to each. They're going to both be told to dribble more and shoot more often. And the reason why I've done this is because this tactic I actually designed with Martinelli and Saka in mind, with Arsenal, of course. And I will say, if your wingers then, if your Raumdeuters have not got shoot more often in terms of, not shoot more often, haven't got good finishing, sorry, do not have shoot more often on. If your wingers or Raumdeuters, I keep getting it wrong, have got sort of 7 or 8 finishing, I wouldn't recommend having that on. But if you're playing with the likes of Saka, Martinelli, who have got decent finishing, you may as well use it as well. So make sure you are getting that involved. But that's going to be the player roles. It is like any other 4-3-3, but has quite a vast difference with 2 Raumdeuters and a very defensive back line. Let's go through the team instructions. We can learn a little bit more about how I created this masterpiece. So again, based off a positive gegenpress, this is going to remain in the middle. We're going to go to pass into the space. Playing out from the back is going to be absolutely essential. We're going to have a shorter passing directness matched with a higher tempo. Nice and simple so far. We are going to maintain the low crosses, as I do love to have in my tactics. We're going to run at the defence and also opt to being more expressive in this tactic. In transition, we are going to counter press, counter, play to anyone across the back line while rolling the ball out. You've got to understand we have got an incredible defensive back line, so there's going to be zero risks. They're all going to be quite close to the goal line, and we've got the wing back sitting narrow as well. So he can play to anyone across that back line, and we'll build out from the back, as you can see here, playing out from defence. And lastly, out of possession, we are going to go with a high press line of engagement. The higher, not much higher, the higher defensive line gets stuck in, prevent short goalkeeper distribution, and of course, when it comes to that sugar press, much more often. Now to the attacking variant. Over to the attacking variant, where things do take a bit of a change and things are allowed to be a little bit more free-flowing. The goalkeeper and both of the centre-backs nearly remain the same, but the centre-backs, and again, this is so optional, I wasn't even going to have this, but for those of you that have got really composed ball-playing defenders with good dribbling, do have dribble more on, because you can afford to do that. If you haven't, do not have dribble more on, because it will frustrate you big time when you see a player try and carry the ball out and lose it and you go and concede. So make sure your players are comfortable on the ball. If they're not, do not have dribble more on. The wing backs change tenfold. They change a lot. Both of the wing backs on the left and on the right now are on support, on take more risks, dribble more, run wide, sit narrow, tackle harder, and also mark tighter. So these wing backs go from being very defensive to very attacking. So we are having a big investment in this attack. Now, midfield, DLP remains the same, box to box remains the same. Obviously, this doesn't. The Mazzala in the default tactic isn't really what I'm after. But when I'm trying to take risk upon risk upon risk upon risk to try and outscore an opposition or to get back into a game, the Mazzala can come in quite comfortably and perform really well, which is why he is in the team. The Raumdeuters remain the same, as does the advanced forward, but the real key change here, isn't even really the Mazzala, it's the wingbacks. So again, gegenpress on the positive mentality. We are going to leave this in the middle, this time overlap left, overlap right, while playing out from the back with pass into space. Of course, we've now got very attacking wingbacks, make sure they're making overlap and runs. We're going to have the tempo all the way up to higher, with a shorter passing directness, with run at defence and be more expressive, being the real key figure of this. Of course, again, the real big change, these overlap and runs, more options, more goals. In transition, we are going to keep it nice and simple. We're still going to play to anyone across the back line because it's still quite a risk-free way of playing while rolling the ball out. But this time, we're going to add this into the equation, distribute quickly, counter, and also counter press. So we really are throwing all guns at the problem. We are going flying, flying, flying. As you can see, wingbacks, midfielders, Raumdeuters, strikers, have fun stopping that. I would not want to be a defender. And lastly, out of possession, we are going to go with the much higher defensive line, the high press line of engagement. We're going to step up more with that defensive line. We're going to get stuck in, prevent short goalkeeper distribution, and the trigger press is going to be maxed out too much more often. I can't stress enough how important it is to have a defensive tactic with this, because the Raumdeuters I refuse to change. So we're still going to have 3 players on the attack, which is Raumdeuter, advanced forward. The advanced forward remains the same. The Raumdeuter on the left and on the right are now on shoot less often and take fewer risks, but I didn't want to change them because it is literally designed to be around a Raumdeuter. So they're still in the team, they're still on attack, but they're a little bit more composed now. A box-to-box comes into the team simply on a default, not being told to get further forwards. The central midfield player comes back in on support, on pass it shorter, take fewer risks, dribble less, shoot less, hold position, and also ease off the tackles. And a DM comes in, the rock-solid DM, on defend, on tackle harder. When it comes to the back line, as you can see, it does go back to exactly the same as the default. So the wingbacks on defend, on sit narrow, tackle harder, and mark tighter. And the goalkeeper, a sweeper keeper, simply on defend. Gegenpress on the balanced mentality. I cannot stress that enough. We're going to leave this in the middle. We're going to pass into the space while playing out from the back. A shorter passing directness matched with a standard tempo. Time wasting set to frequently, very important. Run at defense, we're going to go with the low crosses, and this is going to completely transform this tactic from a tactic that is all guns blazing, very, very attacker minded, to a much more composed and frustrating team to play against, which has time wasted on. And optional, if you've got my set pieces, play for set pieces as well, because you'll score goals with them alone. So if you've got them, make sure that's on as well. In transition, we are going to go with regroup, counter, slow the pace down. Nice little pattern there, isn't it? So regrouping to obviously being quite frustrating. And when we've got the ball, I still want to score goals. So as you can see, the wingbacks are now no longer going to get forwards, but these 2 midfield players are, the Raumdeuters are, the advanced forward is as well. You're still going to score goals. And when it comes to playing it out, we are still going to go with the back line and simply roll the ball out because it's nice and safe. And lastly, out of possession, the standard line, the high pressing line of engagement, standard, and prevent short goalkeeper distribution. And that's going to complete for you boys and girls back home 3 variants of this amazing, incredible Raumdeuter tactic, which I had a lot of fun making. I rarely used the role. Hopefully you have enjoyed back home. If you have, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you want to show any love back to me as a creator and also get over 13 perks for yourselves, go over and join the Patreon, where you can get over 13 exclusive perks, including money giveaways, football match ticket giveaways, tactics, rebuilds, one-on-one help, loads of other stuff, loads of stuff going on. And I'll be seeing you in the next one. And more importantly, just enjoy the rest of your day.